Hello, I'm Debbie Bell Hosking for Finextra TV here in our virtual studio, bringing you part of our Predict 2025 USA series. And I'm joined by Andrew Shikiar of FIDO Alliance, and we're going to be talking about the future of payment authentication. So Andrew, a big welcome to our virtual studio.
Debbie, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Now, Andrew, it's not that long ago since our industry was talking about the death of the password. So how has this conversation evolved, and where are we with passkeys today?
Yeah, no, Debbie, actually, we've been talking about the death of the password for close to 15, 20 years now. So it's not necessarily a new thing. What is new is that we're making great progress towards eliminating our dependence on passwords. FIDO Alliance, where I'm the executive director and CEO, we're a body of around 300 companies that have worked together over the past decade to create foundational technology that eliminates the necessity of passwords, and it starts to eliminate that risk altogether. Most notably, over the past 2 years, we've made amazing progress with passkeys. And passkeys are a true password alternative that allow users to sign into accounts without having to use a password, which is a very good thing because A, it takes away the headache that all of us can relate to when it comes to forgetting passwords, having to reset passwords and things like that. But more importantly, it takes away the risk of passwords. And as we know, the vast majority of data breaches are tracked back to passwords because cyber criminals can guess them, they can steal them, they can phish them. Any sort of human readable, shared secret that's transmitted over the network can and will be attacked and taken over. So with passkeys, we eliminate that approach with a fully encrypted communication between a virtual key pair that's user-friendly and far more secure. And the good news, again, is that we're making great progress with passkeys over the past couple of years.
And I think it is good news for a lot of people not have to remember passwords, myself included. But
Oh, yeah.
how are the banks approaching this? I'm sensing that there may be a slight hesitancy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to keep a time frame in mind. All right, so we introduced the concept of passkeys just over 2 years ago. Right, in that time, we've seen massive adoption for consumer services. So we estimate over 12 billion consumer accounts have the option of using a passkey. And hundreds of millions of users are actively using them. I think Google said they have over 800 million have enrolled passkeys. Amazon has over 175 million users using passkeys. So we're seeing a lot of early adoption in sectors where we typically see early adoption. All right, so that includes things like e-commerce, that includes content, travel and hospitality, in sectors where ensuring a high level of access is of paramount importance. In banking, we've seen some good early adoption as well, with mainly with some neobanks. A company called like UBank in Australia is doing this, and we've seen Abanca do so in Europe. But you're right, we've yet to see any of the majors deploy. Now, I think that's comes down to a couple of things. One, when we talk about passkeys, there's a new wrinkle in the way the authentication happens that banks have taken time to get comfortable with, to understand some of the attributes of the key that the user's holding, if you will. And that work's been progressing over the past 12 months or so, 15 months within FIDO Alliance. We're making great progress there. And I think we'll have some new approaches that will give banks greater confidence in rolling out passkeys, both from a usability standpoint and a security standpoint and a compliance standpoint. The other reason why I think we've seen slower adoption with banks is that, as your viewers know, this is inherently a cautious industry. And the user experience is slightly different with passkeys, right? So you're introducing something new to your customers, and there's no bank on this planet that wants to risk losing a customer. So I think there's been some healthy caution in understanding the complete user journey, user flow, and understanding how that impacts banking customers across customer types, across segments, across geos, across devices. And these things take time. And the good news is that, inside FIDO Alliance, where so many of these banks reside and where so many of these banks collaborate, we've seen great progress happening. And I'm quite confident that in 2025, we'll start to see some big brand banks across the world start to deploy passkeys to allow their users to sign in and access accounts without having to use a password.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So in the future, you're seeing these big brand banks adopting passkeys. So what is next for FIDO Alliance? How do passkeys find their role within payment authentication?
Yeah, so what's next with FIDO Alliance is really more of the same, right? So we have a very intentional and important feedback loop inside FIDO Alliance where we create technical specifications. We help drive them to market through vendors who have FIDO certified solutions that banks can license. We then get feedback from the people who are deploying passkeys to understand, well, how's this working for them? All right, what's the good, what's the bad, what needs to be updated, and then we update our specifications. We roll that back into products that's manifested in the platforms and devices that we all use every day. It's a cycle of continuous improvement, so that will carry on. We're also trying to really focus on enabling the enablers, if you will. So anyone who wants to roll out passkeys, we're creating resources for them to both establish their business case and give them best practices on how to deploy passkeys. So to that end, last month we launched a brand new site called Passkeys Central, passkeyscentral.org. This is really a comprehensive resource that can help anyone inside an organization seeking to deploy passkeys, giving them the tools they need to get started, and really to help them along with every phase of their passkey deployment journey. So to answer your question, Debbie, more of that. All right, so helping people be successful. Now, specific to payments, we're seeing some very interesting work happening on the payments front. So both Visa and MasterCard have introduced payment passkey services, which are getting very positive market reception. So I think in 2025 and beyond, we'll start seeing that bear fruit. We'll start seeing more payment authentication enabled by passkeys. And you'll also see FIDO Alliance start to delineate what we can do further from a technical standpoint, right? What adjustments might we need to make in our specifications, in our deployment guidelines, and even our certification programs to reflect that passkeys can be used for more than just user authentication. There's certainly a potential role for us with payment authentication as well. So we'll be looking at that as an alliance very closely in 2025 as Visa and MasterCard continue to also push their service out to market.
Wow, thank you, Andrew. I mean, this is certainly a space to watch, not only to celebrate the decline of the password, perhaps, but I understand also enhanced security as well.
Absolutely. So it's about security and usability, because ultimately you can build something that's incredibly secure, but if it's not usable, people simply won't use it, right? And so I think that's really the sweet spot that FIDO Alliance has found, right? So backing up to the start of our conversation about, we've been talking about the death of the password for some time. We have been, right? But now we finally, have technology that's both highly secure and highly usable, and most importantly, technology that has the support of the entire industry. From the payment networks to the banks to the device manufacturers to the experts in biometrics and security to leading governments and regulators. There is this universal support for what we're doing within FIDO Alliance that will allow us collectively to move beyond this dependence on passwords into a much safer and much simpler future for user authentication.
Wonderful. Well, on that note of looking to the future, perhaps we can have a chat at a later date and see how things have evolved further. But for now, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you, Debbie.